Do you have a face a mother could trust?
I think my mother trusts my face.
I don't know. Look at his shirt. Probably not.
Actually, shirt doesn't bother me.
Probably indicates a no. Let's say no.
We're all good. Go for it. And you'll tell us when it's 11.
You want to
Give me the 15. Yeah. So
And
that we
do me
know.
a favor. So we wrap in 11:15 or 11:20.
11:20, but he'll give me a 5-minute warning.
Yeah, give a 5-minute cue because I do 11:20 works if we were literally out the door 11:20. Go.
Yeah.
Sorry. Your show.
No, it's all good, man. So I don't even do like an official intro or anything of that nature. It's just
My wife said the same thing. There'll be no official introduction.
Yep. Yeah. So really, it's a consumer of podcasts for many years. I was always driven nuts at the beginning of shows because it was, some 2-3 minute intro about who the guest is, what the show is, probably some promo. And I'm like, you're teaching me right now to skip the first 3 minutes. And you sold the advertisers the heaviest and the biggest dollars at the top of the show, trying to claim that more listeners are going to listen to the beginning and they fall off over time. And it's like, no, you taught everybody to skip that. So there's actually no ROI to even participating. Anyway, so I just skip all of that.
See, so I look at it differently than you.
Okay.
Okay. My philosophy is similar to yours if you've ever listened to my show. Mm-hmm. But when you have somebody on like Kenny McPeak,
yeah,
who just won the Derby and the Oaks,
yeah,
who's a friend who did the show last week, you don't wait till later to say he's coming on. So I don't know how much you've listened. I will normally just start talking, and then eventually my other side of my brain says, "Hello, you better say who's on the show." And, so I don't wait, and I agree with you. Just go for it.
I was on the show last week with you talking about the whole...
When you barged into the studio?
Yeah, I just kicked the door open. You're like, oh, I forgot you were coming.
I really did.
How'd you make time for me?
It was easy.
Just squeeze it in, huh? It was like 8 minutes, I think.
Okay.
So cool.
It was
thanks
fun.
For the 8 minutes.
It was fun.
That.
Matter of fact, I thought maybe 5, but we had a little bit of a roll.
Yeah.
And the truth was, I'm trying to remember who was in the studio sitting at the time.
Is obviously Jimmy, you're a producer, and then
who was the guest?
What's his name?
Come on.
He hires photographers. He's in politics a little bit.
I have no idea.
Doesn't he run politics, or he used to run politics for TV?
I don't think so, but we'll move on because we don't want to have all this dead air.
Yeah,
anyway,
I forget. Anyway, I know the name.
It's only my
I'll
show, and I forget too.
Yeah.
Point being is that in my head I thought 5 minutes, but because I had 2 hours, I just flow with stuff.
Yeah.
And so we were having a fun conversation.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
If I didn't have somebody in the studio at the time, we probably would have done 15, 20 minutes.
Got it.
And I really forced myself to cut it off, even though it was good, because somebody was literally sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's going to bother me that I can't remember who it was. But I do, I like the banter that we had. Why am I coming on your podcast? Nobody listens to
What's that?
Who listens to your podcast?
I don't know. It's growing, though. We've gone from basically nothing to last week. Apparently, there were 800 per day.
Wow. Okay.
So, and last, this is a great shot. Really have my stomach stick out. Yeah. Nice TV equipment. I'm fat enough as it is, and you guys are making me even fatter. As a matter of fact, it's so bad you can't see half of Mickey's face because of the bulge in my belly. Yeah, ask me to come back again.
We'll work on your fitness for you.
No, I work out every day and still look this bad.
I know, we were talking about hot yoga and everything that you used to do in this building.
Used to do, but I'll do yoga today or tomorrow.
With the knee and everything?
Yes.
Okay. When's the replacement, by the way?
July.
Okay. So you're hobbling till then?
Yeah. There's no cartilage. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
I wish you could say, boy, it was a great sporting event. I was a great athlete. BS. I have no idea I kind of have an idea, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, you were saying before I rudely interrupted you.
I don't even know what I was talking about.
Oh, good. That makes two of us.
Yeah, that's great. How long have you been doing the ESPN thing?
Almost 19 months.
Okay. How are you enjoying it right now?
I love it.
Yeah. Do you enjoy doing radio or TV more?
I like radio more because of the freedom.
To show up in a Mickey Mouse shirt? That kind of freedom? Or?
Yeah, that's part of the freedom.
Okay.
The other part of freedom is the clothing superfluous because I was the worst dressed person on television anyway.
I always saw you in a suit. Okay.
Well, wearing jeans and whatever.
Oh,
so the TV station, I've told this story before, the TV station wouldn't give a clothing allowance, which was BS.
They want you to wear something, give you an allowance.
And I had a chain come to me and wanted to outfit me from head to toe. And all they wanted was a mention at the end of the newscast.
Yeah.
They wanted very little in return. In the 1950s, you can't make this up. In the 1950s, some sportscaster at Channel 18 abused a whopping $50 clothing trade for personal use. So they decided there'd never be any clothing again. This is now the 1980s.
So we can't revisit at that time now a 30-year-old.
Oh, I revisited it and they said no. And I was furious.
And they said no because of the 50s?
Yes.
Okay.
And they weren't paying me much money. So it's like I wasn't going to get dressed really well. I had no money.
Yeah.
Really, TV doesn't pay what a lot of people think it pays, especially if you're a new person on the block. And it's Lexington TV. It's not New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. So I didn't go to the company. And I said, look, they said no, and here's why. They were mad. They said, here's the deal. We will outfit all 4 of your main anchors. We just want a little thing on the bottom of the newscast at 6 and 11.
Yeah.
All 4. I'm going, no way they'll say no. And they said no. And I told the general manager, Harry Barfield, and I liked Harry a lot. We were friends. I just said, I'll never spend any money on clothing. Never. Never.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to.
Actually, when I told this to Ryan Lemon a long time ago, he started laughing at me because I was dressed so poorly. I said, I wanted to be dressed actually very classy. But a clothing trade is not a big deal in the TV industry, by the way.
Yeah.
It's now going away. But there was a gal named Patty Burns in Pittsburgh. She was wildly popular. She did the show with her father, who was the main anchor for years on KDKA. And in semi-retirement, he did the noon show. He'd walk in about 11:30. He'd look at the script, do the show with his daughter, and leave. That's all he was there for. And she would turn and say, Dad, and he would say, Patty. Their ratings were astronomical.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, she got $10,000 for clothing.
Wow. That's crazy.
And when it ran out, you know what they did?
Give her more?
Yeah, they gave her another $10,000. She was making them a fortune.
That's crazy.
And I didn't want that. I just wanted some suits and stuff like that. How did we get off on this tangent?
No, I mean, I like it. Well, I mean, you're getting into NIL kind of topics in a different kind of way. It's the same. The barter system or trades and all of that stuff. I think it's really important. And we're doing it more and more. I feel like in our regular lives.
I think it's always been around, but it's been a quiet thing, and now it's just exploded.
Now everybody's in on it, and they kind of understand what's going on, right?
Yeah, if you're talking about sports,
I think just in general.
okay. Do you think there was? You think there wasn't cheating in sports 30 years ago?
Oh, I'm absolutely sure there was.
Yeah.
You didn't have social media with everybody in a phone and a camera to be able to tell on you and put it out there immediately and all that
There
stuff.
was a lot of cheating back then.
Yeah,
It's just now
a lot
on
easier.
a huge level.
Yeah. Do you think it's better now as far as transparency and what's going on, or do you think it's even easier now to hide things because you know where to hide it from?
I don't think it's really transparent because people are putting figures out. They don't know what the hell they're talking about.
What's
Seriously.
an example?
Oscar.
Oh, like what he made when he was a student.
Do I think he made a lot of money? Yes. Do I think he made nearly as much as people think? No.
Yeah.
And so now you've got agents involved. So they play one school off another and they're amplifying prices. And here's one of the stories that I've talked about that's not getting talked about a lot. An agent calls up a school and says, so-and-so school is offering me $500,000. We want you to top it. School says, nope, don't want you that badly. They have to manage their NIL budget.
Right. We did a project with Oscar. I guess maybe it would have been summer of 22.
Did you go to the Bahamas?
No, but it was around that. It was at that time. There was a third-party production team in Nassau that filmed a bunch of stuff and on green screen sent it to us. And we put it all together.
Because of the rule, which really stinks,
because
that not being an American kid, he couldn't make money. That's disgusting. You know, some congressman should have put a law in to change that, and it's the kind of thing without putting 47,000 addendums in there that should have been changed.
Yeah.
Hi, what's the law for? I don't know. But I wanted to get in this, that, and the other. And it's common sense. What they did to Oscar, and by the way, he's not the only one. Edie, the kid from Purdue, had the same problem.
Yeah.
Player of the year
with that one. Yeah.
7'4", he's from Canada.
Got it.
He dealt with the same
Makes
crap.
sense. Yeah. That's a even bigger thing when you talk government and making money and all that stuff. That's different people,
It's
of course.
discriminatory against
it's wild.
foreign kids, whether
Yeah.
you're an athlete or not, male or female, tall, short, black, white, yellow, skinny, doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
It's discriminatory.
Yeah. I guess it's how they try to make sure. Well, I mean, there's currently a process, right? Like if you're here for school, cool. But then we expect you to leave. You came here we know why you're here. We know you're not going to be here forever. If you want to be here forever, you want to be able to work and make money, well, there's a way to do that. You got to go through that process.
You're a student.
There are processes, but they take forever.
This is disgusting.
For sure.
It's disgusting that Oscar or another kid, because he's not from America, can't make the same amount of money that you could if you had any talent, which I hear you don't.
Well, yeah, none. That's why I'm sitting over here.
Neither do I.
That's why we're commenting on things and not doing the things, you know?
I understand. I really understand.
Yeah, I just remember when we were in the midst of that project that Oscar's agent, people know his name, but I won't say it here, but like he would call and he would update every so often, every few days, be like, the new number is this, to get him for an hour. And so it kept going back.
Do you mind if I ask you how much it was?
I think the last time I heard, I don't know if I could say. I got to look at an NDA, see if I could even say.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
You might have signed an NDA.
I definitely signed an NDA. I got to look at the content of that NDA to see if I could say it.
That's fair.
But
it's 4 figures though, right?
Oh, it was 5 for sure.
5 figures.
Oh, it was
for 1 hour.
Oh yeah, the 5 kept getting higher and higher every single time the call was made, because I don't know what was going on and what their reasoning was, but there were the discussions between the sponsors and who was he was going to do some work for. They had a budget, a pretty fixed budget of what they wanted to spend, of course, but then you have a NIL athlete over here that just keeps raising that figure. And now they're having to negotiate and figure out, like, okay, is the scope of the project going to have to change because we're going to have to pay less, or you know what I mean?
Okay,
so there was
this
this back and forth that I understand. I was not. And
no.
I want to clarify too. I was not on these phone calls to really know
all good
the content.
My thing is, if you make a deal for a price,
yeah.
Now all of a sudden they're changing it and changing it and changing it and changing it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Because their perceived value of their athlete was increasing. Again, I have no idea what their reasoning was for that. To say, it's not like this happened over the course of the season where it's like, oh my gosh, he's got this award now. Oh, that was, season didn't even start yet.
Changed because they thought they can get it.
Yeah, exactly. Probably all just the preseason hype, which I absolutely hate preseason hype anymore anyway.
Okay.
Based on, do you like preseason hype?
I'm cautious about it.
See, I feel like we create our own problems, especially here in the BBN, because a lot of people will look at like people like yourself or Matt Jones or other personalities that are out there talking about preseason things. And, it's obviously exciting to talk about what's coming up. All you could do is go off of somebody's resume of what they've been able to perform so far. Make some guesses about like, okay, if we pair these people together,
it is guesses. It is guesses.
Yeah.
And on top of it, there's a couple variables. Sometimes people get much better from year to year.
Right. Yeah.
And it's tough to like a kid, one of the kids in the portal, he went from averaging less than 10 a game to 19 in 1 year, but he'd been in college for 4 years. Name escapes me, but that's not the point. But you couldn't have looked at that. You looked at him going, oh, this is a studly athlete. Okay. But could you see why he would go from these numbers to this numbers? Absolutely unequivocally not.
Yeah. But the thing that bothers me is we get in this position of taking, I feel like we say I don't know how to articulate and start this. That's why I keep restarting. We say things like, well, they were the best kid at their school. They were the all-star athlete, the only player on their high school team. They were amazing. When they come to Kentucky, everybody's amazing. So the floor is just leveled up and they don't stand out anymore because the people they're playing with are equally awesome, right?
Sometimes that's true, sometimes that's not.
But you know what
I know what you're saying.
These are things that we say every single year in football and basketball specifically about our players.
Yeah.
Is that they were the all-stars. Now they come here. They're great. So in general, it's like it's easy to stand out. It's easy to have more numbers when you're the obvious person to put in the game in situational football or basketball. But when you come here and you're not the only choice, your numbers could be reduced.
And they often are. And it goes
Right.
both ways. Nobody in their right mind thought Reed Sheppard would be this good this
Right.
past season. Nobody.
But the person on the other side of the ball is also going to be equally that much better
Well, it's
than
better
the
than
person you had to play
in
when
high
you were
school.
in high school.
Sure.
So now your numbers are clearly affected. And that dynamic that exists in high school or in college does not exist in high school. But we try to hype them up based off the dynamic from high school.
Because that's all you have.
I know.
And
I
here-
know.
But here's the other variable to confuse you even more.
Yeah.
Like Reed Sheppard was a very good shooter in high school, not a great shooter.
Mm-hmm.
He made himself into a great shooter. There was nothing that you saw in high school that you could say, oh, wow, if he shoots 300 shots a day, whatever he did, he's not the only one doing a lot of shots. Not everybody does it, but he's one of many who does it.
Right.
He'll just be that much better. There was nothing there to indicate he would improve that much. He improved that much over the summer.
Where do you think that comes from? Is it just him putting the work in? Is it actually getting in front of different coaches that are able to help?
Well, first of all, you can put in work till you're blue in the face, but if your form stinks, your form stinks. So taking 500 shots, if you don't have a repeatable form, is not going to make you any better. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, whether it was by himself, a tip, his mom, his dad, he understood at an early age you have to have repeatable form. And it's not like he was lazy in high school, but for some reason, it clicked in the offseason. I don't know why. Yeah. I really don't know why. But it's incredible. He's not a good shooter. He's a great shooter. You couldn't see that. The passing ability was there in high school. Just a lot of people didn't realize it because he played at a high school that didn't get a lot of publicity. Mm. His instincts are off the charts, but that I knew. But the shooting, anybody who said his mom and dad couldn't have predicted the shooting to be this good.
I think, I was certainly guilty throughout this season of a little Sheppard exhaustion. The conversation, seeing mom and dad on TV, and just that whole thing. But
I think there's more people like you, but they don't want to admit it because they are the perfect family. Literally, they're as good.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Was like that was totally a me thing. That has nothing to do with them. That's
no, but I think
right?
You're not the only person. I don't think that's a majority opinion.
Sure,
but I think there's more people who felt that way, but wouldn't say anything because they'd be too afraid to.
Yeah, well, that's a personal issue that they have,
you're
right?
a Kentucky fan. You're a Kentucky fan. You can't say that. And you want to know something? You don't think Jeff was tired of it?
Oh, yeah.
You don't think Stacy was tired of it?
Yeah. And they want the spotlight on their son that's out there.
Yeah.
Not them anymore.
And you know what? To their credit, they both were so gracious. It was off the charts. By the way, not that that's surprising, but you never heard a bad word out of, not a bad syllable, not a bad comment, nothing. And you know what? Their son does nothing but give perfect sound bites.
All of what you just said, I think it wraps up into what I was going to say, which was for a kid to grow up in a home where basketball was life, there's a lot of reputation to feel maybe some pressure to chase. And, you got to be as good as your dad. You got to be as great as your mom, all that kind of stuff that probably existed. I would imagine it did because other people have had those dynamics where they felt pressure and anxiety and other stuff, but it didn't seem like he ever folded to that. It seemed like it must have been a healthy household.
Yes.
So that he could feel empowered to go and practice and be himself and not be somebody chasing mom and dad, but Reed, you go be you. So that you can have the mental capacity to go to college, work out in the summer, and be good. Have that discipline. Like I have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Okay.
I couldn't imagine if I was teaching them to do like that. The patience that you have to have to work with children, say in basketball, something where they have, gross motor skills or something they have to achieve over time, and the fine motor skills come even later when we're talking about finger pressure and position and holding and the discipline and commitment to holding it, and to have a parent tell you how to fix your form and for you to accept that criticism and that change, like that dynamic right there is like clearly special, you know, because there's a lot of things that could go wrong,
A lot of variables
where
can
they
go wrong.
might not work out.
I credit mom and dad
So
to that.
that's what I'm saying.
Credit mom and dad.
I walk back
they
my
set the
perception
tone.
of them, which again was totally my problem. You know, they didn't choose to be on TV. Whoever was directing chose to do that.
Right.
And
And
I chose to react.
You know, I had
way.
some people react to me that way. Well, you know, look at them. They're on TV all the time. Excuse me?
Yeah.
Who's pointing the camera in his face? Jeff would never, ever,
Yeah.
ever go say, hey, can I be on TV?
Yeah. Now I'll ask you this question: Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
People get potentially the same issue.
I don't get it.
Where Taylor Swift comes into the stadium, she's there to support her boyfriend.
Right.
And she's on TV every 2 seconds, and the commentators are talking about her, and the news or the director is pointing the cameras at her. She, as far as I know, and I have to give her the benefit of the doubt, there was no backroom thing to make that happen.
Well, there's two things.
Somebody decided to do that.
Two things. One, there doesn't have to be a background to make that happen because she's Taylor Swift.
Right.
The other thing is you bring up a pet peeve of mine. I couldn't stand the people who decided not to like her because she's going to support her boyfriend.
It's the same thing to me, though, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Stacey and Jeff.
Are you kidding? Now, can you imagine? She's in a box. Can you imagine if she was in the stands? Seriously, can you imagine?
The place would burn down.
Oh
with
my gosh, the
everybody
people,
going
can I
in.
have an autograph?
Yeah.
No, the people decided not to like Taylor Swift because of that. I couldn't stand it. Not her fault.
Yeah.
Should she not have a boyfriend? So she has a boyfriend who's very public and a big name.
Yeah.
Who cares? More power to him. No, I can't stand that when
Yeah.
people say, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of Taylor Swift. Guess what? Did they stop plays for her? Did you ever see a cutaway shot where they missed the play? I don't know. So.
I didn't watch enough to really know the
I
answer.
watched plenty. If they did,
Okay.
I missed it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
she did. Here's the other side of that. She did more to get women to watch football, as far as a spike is concerned, than probably has ever been done before. You know, Monday Night Football, there's a lot more, this before Taylor Swift, there's a lot more women that would watch Monday Night Football than people realized. It's a much higher number, and I'm forgetting the number. It's not 50%, but it's a lot higher than I'm guessing you would anticipate, and I'm sorry I forgot the number. When I saw it years ago, I went, wow, I had no idea. So there are all these young girls now who are exposed in a positive way to football that might have never been exposed before.
Yeah.
There are young girls. There were stories about young girls playing sports who have Taylor Swift jerseys not in Kansas City and are rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs because of
Taylor.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah. I really want to believe that is 100% just authentic, the way that went down. Some of me, actually a lot of me,
You're suspicious.
suspiciously thinks the NFL numbers have been waning for a long time. They've been trying to get in Europe forever with these, 1 or 2 games.
I don't think the NFL numbers have been waning. I would disagree with that.
Oh, all the stuff that happened with kneeling and everything.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Beg to differ. It took a little hit with that, but take a look at the last 4 or 5 years. What were the top 20 shows of the year, and see how many times football was in it.
I mean, it's one of the few live events that we have on a regular basis.
Okay.
So I don't know how many other things we have to really compare that to.
Does make a difference. I'm talking about most watched.
Okay.
And I'm not talking the Super Bowl. Go look at the numbers. You might be really surprised.
I would also love to, maybe you have an answer for this too. So we talk about radio and we talk about ratings and things of that nature. iHeart wants to go out and say, iHeartRadio is number one podcast platform and radio thing. 97% of Americans listen to radio every day. That number seems wild to me. 97%. I'm curious where...
Seems past ridiculous to me.
Oh, yeah. 97%. That's their sales radio copy on the air. That's what they say. So I would love to see how they justify saying something like that. It's like, is it because the radio is on in the mall There might be 30,000 people walking through the biggest mall, and it happens to be playing. Nobody's listening to the music in a mall.
Correct.
But does that count towards Nielsen's? Is somebody
I'm
sitting there
sure
recording
they're like
it?
all companies who are booming it to their perspective as much as they can.
Well, this is my thing with the NFL. I'm curious, you go to a Buffalo Wild Wings with 200 TVs, multiply Buffalo Wild Wings by 200 locations. Are we claiming that many people sitting in the restaurant were watching TV, or are they sitting there actually talking to each other? Like,
can't answer that.
The rating system is just so.
Oh, the rating
goofy.
system stinks.
Yeah.
The rating system for radio was archaic when I got to Lexington in the 1980s. It's not any better. It's stumbling in a box of rocks. It's not fair. There's nothing you can do. And I cannot believe in today's technology that it's so stupid how they do it.
Yeah.
It's one of the dumbest things.
Are they still doing journals and all that kind of nonsense?
Who wants to fill that stuff out for like $1 or whatever it is?
Yeah, and who's could be honest in the journal? Like, yeah, whatever. I listen to your station. Who cares, right? You gave me $5 to answer this.
It's awful.
There's no honesty there.
Well, and the problem is people's lives and living is often prevalent based upon somebody filling out a survey, if they really do, or if they're just check marking. I mean, can you put an app on a phone? Can you put an app on a phone? Hello?
Yeah. I mean, why couldn't... There's got to be a way for transponder to somehow figure out that it's attached to some vehicle that's going down the road.
I think it's actually... I think it's pretty simple. You pay people more money for doing the survey. You try to have a feel of their honesty by a survey that they also might lie about, and you pay them more money. Because... I don't know what the figures are. It's been years since I've seen it, but it cost a fortune for a radio station on this level to buy the rating book. What research? We're handing out books. It's as simplistic. It seems as crazy.
Well, so I brought all that up to say, I don't know if I believe the NFL numbers that you're speaking about going up and being fine.
I've seen it.
So... But these are the numbers we're talking about.
But
right?
these are Nielsen numbers. Well, then
but that's what we're talking about.
Do you
it's not believing those numbers.
Do you think people are watching Blue Bloods on
like
CBS?
The show?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but I don't think they're watching it more than any other show that's out there with the quintillion channels. Plus, you know what everybody else is doing for the most part when they have TV on? This.
Yeah. There's a lot of that.
I mean, this.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's on TV. That's white noise. I'm doing this. You know?
Unless you're into the show.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm curious that balance. How many people are actually consuming the show and how many TVs just happen to have the show on?
No clue.
Probably virtually impossible or totally impossible to ever
Totally
know,
impossible because people won't be honest and you can't get their thoughts.
Yeah, there's no way to track it either because our devices keep
So you're saying advertising is a con game?
I'd say if you have the money to do it and
be careful.
And you can get, I know. Try to dance around it. If you have the money to throw at it and hope for the best, then cool. And after a certain period of time, if you feel like your P&L has been impacted and you're, doing better and you're hiring more employees and you need more floor space and everything else, well, and that's like the marketing you're doing, then surely there's got to be some sort of impact.
Nice comeback.
But this is how we sell social media and some of the stuff that we do.
Yeah.
It's like people want to be like, okay, but if I'm going to spend this kind of money, what's the ROI going to be? It's like, this is not sales. This is brand. This is marketing. This is not direct sales. I'm not selling a t-shirt for you. You know what I mean? So if you want direct sales and to be able to trace $1 to the next, go on social media and do paid ads that way. That way you could see somebody went to your Shopify store, added the thing to cart, didn't buy it. Pixel will take them back to Facebook. They'll see the picture of that thing that they left in the cart. You'll get special copy that says, Alan, you left this in your cart. Do you want 25% off? To nudge you to go make the purchase you weren't going to make. And you're like, I guess I'll go do it. You can trace all of that. You can't do any of that with radio, TV, any of that.
Makes sense.
But what I find fascinating is the amount of small local business, because the tradition and just perception of security in putting dollars in TV and radio, they would much rather go put it there than park it in digital advertising. because the platform that the advertising is happening on is newer to them.
They don't understand it.
But it's the most traceable platform you can have. So that is just such a mind game to me.
It's a battle.
For what we just said.
Yeah, it's a
salespeople
battle.
are going to go out and be like, hey, we got this many listeners. 97% of Americans are listening to radio every day, says iHeart. No, they're not. But they're going to go tell some mom and pop shop and they're going to be like, take my money. You can't believe it.
I'd like to think people
wild.
are smarter than that.
I've been in the rooms.
Okay.
I've been in those rooms.
Okay.
At the end of the day, when their dollar is on the line, especially a small business, they need every dollar to work hard for them. So whatever their gut is telling them is the better buy is where they're going to go. Doesn't matter what their brain says. It says, there's some sort of visceral reaction. They got to pull the trigger. So stuff is just crazy. I don't know how we got down this rabbit hole. It's been going on.
Your show.
Dude, okay, so how long
Actually, you know what it sounded like? I was your shrink and you're giving me an answer.
I know. Let me just lay down.
No.
How long were you at LAX? 18.
I was there from 81 to 84.
Okay.
Went to Pittsburgh, KDKA.
Yeah,
and
the oldest station in the country.
The first radio station in the country,
radio,
not the first TV station in the country. I did radio and TV in Pittsburgh. And they were dumb enough to call me back in 1987. Then they couldn't get rid of me till I retired in 2018.
So most of my family's from Pittsburgh or surrounding areas, McKeesport, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I'm very well acquainted with KDKA, Bob Pompiani, and all those people.
Pomp was basically an intern.
Yeah.
When I got there. And Pomp I sent him a note, just celebrated like 40 years.
Yeah.
He's done a great job.
Yeah. What'd you like better? A market like Pittsburgh? A market like Lexington? Why come back? Why'd you leave?
I left because they lied to me. I left because I was dumb enough not to get what they promised me in writing. I turned the job down the first time, and I shouldn't have accepted it the second time. My fault.
You should not have?
Absolutely not.
For coming back here, you mean?
No, I shouldn't have.
Or what do you mean?
I was mad.
Sorry, I want to make sure I'm following.
No, okay. I was mad at Channel 18.
Okay.
Because ratings went way up. They weren't paying me anything, and they wouldn't allow me to make any money on the side. Another one of those rules that they had about making money on the side.
Yeah.
Whereas there was a salesman who actually owned a liquor store or something like that, and he got away with it, and I couldn't do radio. So I had people come to me and say, hey, we'll pay you X for doing this, and it won't affect your TV job. And it was easy money. Not a ton of money, but easy money. And I wasn't making enough money to buy a house as a sports director and sports anchor at LAX 18. And the ratings were going way up, and I was given a lot of credit for it, and they weren't paying any money. So the third time I went in and said, hey, I want to do this rating, they said no. I yelled and said, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to leave.
Yeah. How was that? Were they just like, okay?
They ignored me, and then I accept. The weird part is I actually turned down some other jobs that were better because I was very particular. I had a lot of offers back then. I was young. It's different now. Who wants somebody like me now? I mean, it's just the way TV is. It's okay. And I was so particular, I didn't want to just leave because I felt I had to leave. I knew I wasn't going to stay in Lexington. That wasn't my game plan, just to be honest. Kid from New York. You think I'm going to come to Lexington and say I want to spend my life here? And the fortunate part is I'm lucky it worked out the way it is. But that's not the point. You don't come to Lexington from New York to say I'm going to stay. That's not insulting to anybody. If it is, you're wrong. It's just not the thought process. So I turned down some really good jobs thinking I want like close to the perfect job. Now the station ticked me off 3 times. I asked to do radio, and they told me down 3 times. And the money would have put me over the top. So we were living paycheck to paycheck. My wife was working. I was working. We had no kids. We had no extra money. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
It's not what anybody thinks it is on a certain level per se.
Well, they see you on TV. They see a well-paid athlete on TV and kind of put the two together, right? You're on TV. You must be making
a lot of money.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there. So that I would not have taken that KDKA job the year before. When I turned it down, I wouldn't have. When they called back, I would have said, "Hey, thanks. You know, you're gonna have to make put it all in writing, whatever, and I allowed myself to get talked into it. My fault. My fault.
So what did you learn in that moment?
In that moment when? That moment when I accepted the job or the moment I came back?
When you accepted the job.
Oh, the accepted job was, it was fine.
Yeah.
It was months later when I was supposed to be the weekend anchor, which they promised me, and then to be what they called the 1A guy. There was a guy named there, John Sanders, who was gone like 52% of the time, which was incredulous, doing all kinds of sports. And so they wanted somebody, they didn't, you're getting a time signal? I can't, what does that say?
5-minute warning.
Is it a 5-minute warning?
Yep. It's flying by.
English is my second language. They wanted somebody who had they didn't check Alan Cutler. That's not how it's done. They wanted, this guy was like Rob Bromley. Do you remember him?
Nope.
Okay, Rob did sports on Channel 27 forever.
Okay.
Rob was very good, very straight, very proper. You knew exactly what you're getting from Rob, and Rob didn't show his personality on TV. Rob had his fans and was very good. John Sanders was like a little better Rob Bromley. He was very straight, very whatever, and they wanted somebody who had a personality, was kind of goofy,
no
naturally.
Filter.
Yeah, to be the 1A guy.
Yeah.
And so had that come into fruition, my salary would have changed, all kinds of stuff. And then about 6 months in, it was like, nah, we're going to wait a while. And I was like, why am I here?
Yeah. So what was Pittsburgh like? How did you enjoy that?
Pittsburgh was fine.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. Had I received what I was promised in Pittsburgh, I probably would have loved Pittsburgh. But when you go there and you move your wife, who's kind enough to move with you, obviously, and you're picking up and moving, and what you're promised, which is the foundation of you making that tremendous move in your future, isn't given to you, you're not very happy. No, Pittsburgh was fine.
So is everything verbal? Is everything in writing?
Well, the contract's
Sounds
in
like
writing.
a lot of
they would not put certain things in writing. The contract was probably
red flag number 1, probably.
Well,
right?
I allowed them. I allowed the agent to convince me that their word was good. When I initially said no, I don't need to do this. I've turned down better jobs, which I did.
So is this experience of somebody giving you their word, going back on it multiple times?
I don't trust anybody.
Has that done anything?
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
So that's eroded the trust.
I mean, I'm 71 now. I mean, I'm basically done outside doing a little radio show, but the trust factor, anybody in this business, are you kidding? There's no way. Why would I trust anybody?
So where did the trust come from in the first place? It was just not knowing the business?
I allowed myself to get sold on something I shouldn't have. It's my fault. I don't blame them. I blame me. I could have said no again and waited for the next thing to come along, and something else would have come along. It just sounded really good, and I was ticked off at the station. If I wasn't ticked off the station, I never would have accepted the job.
So what were you doing before all of this, before you came to 18 the first time?
I graduated college, and we were sitting around the Thanksgiving table, and my uncle was moving out west, and I just said, hey, Unc, do you need help moving out west? To which my mother, you got to remember, I'm just a kid, choking on her food. And I said, you got to wait for me, because I was graduating in January because I took a semester off. And I drove a truck and went with them out to Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay.
When I graduated, because I figured out pretty quickly you couldn't start broadcasting in New York City. I actually tried, and they kind of looked at me like, go get some experience, kid, somewhere. And so my uncle wanted to set me up in business, and I didn't want to do that. And you know what a third-class license is? Probably not. Well, back then you had first, second, and third-class licenses. The first class was an engineer. The third class, I could put the test in front of you guys right now without reading a book, you'd pass it. So you had to have the third-class license to be a DJ. So I went to New York City, and I was shocked. There were like 400 or 500 people there taking the test. And they said, you get results back usually in a couple of weeks. So I had it set that by the time I went to Albuquerque, I should have had it and then some. Well, now I'm there a couple of weeks, whatever. Now it's a couple of months, still don't have it. I go get a job, you can't make this up, off Cutler Avenue. An FM rock station, needed a weekend DJ, got hired on the spot. They were desperate.
And where was this again?
In Albuquerque, off Cutler Avenue. And just to get on the air and start doing something. The Friday, I still didn't have my license, and I called the guy. I said, look, I was too honest. It's one of my problems. I said, hey, my license didn't come. He goes, you shouldn't have told me. I wouldn't have cared, but now that I know that, you can't work here. So then, of course, the license came the next week.
course it did.
That's the way life goes.
Yeah.
So I was doing a couple menial jobs, living with my uncle and his girlfriend at the time. And I probably shouldn't have said that, but it's true. Mary was very nice, but neither here nor there. And I went to a payphone, and I called every radio and TV station in the state of New Mexico. I went to the library. I shouldn't say this, but it's the truth. I went to the library, and I ripped out 2 pages in the broadcasting book. I still feel guilty about that. I had no money. There was nowhere to get anything. I'm sorry.
It's like 50 years ago or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You said 71, so yeah.
No, this was 1970.
No, you're 71, so trying to do the math of how old you might have been.
Oh, it was 1975. I just graduated from college.
Okay.
And I had $25.25 in quarters. I went to a payphone. Do you know what a payphone is?
Yeah.
Do you know
Somehow
what a payphone is?
Somehow I used one.
I'm
I
shocked.
think maybe once.
Yeah, I mean, you don't look that old. I had $25.25 in quarters, and I called every place in the state till my money ran out. And there were 3 jobs potentially that had anything to do with sports. One of them was doing Little League Baseball on an FM rock station in Farmington, New Mexico, which is a couple hours away from, I remember right, from Albuquerque. So my uncle says, just go. Went okay. It was Memorial Day weekend, and I show up Monday morning, 8:30 in the morning. Their office opens up 9. The guy who was the general manager didn't remember talking to me. He had some issues. I'm not going to say the guy's name. He's no longer with us, whatever. And it was kind of like, what am I doing? And the secretary, which I didn't know at the time, was the owner's daughter, said, what are you doing here? I told her. She goes, wait a second, just sit here. Had the job in 15 minutes. They were desperate. So I'm doing and had a great time.
Yeah.
I had a great time doing Little League Baseball on an FM rock station, 2 games a night, 6 games a week, and I lived over a place called Snooker's Pool Hall. You can't make this up. I had the best time. It was just love it. I was in hog heaven. $100 a week.
Yeah.
Lived in a place paid by the week, and I always tried. I always had eggs, peanut butter, white bread, milk, orange juice, and often beer. 6 staples. And if there was any money left over, I would get a pack of, the Kraft cheese, which is terrible for you, all processed food.
It's not even real cheese.
It's not.
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't
like
know
51%.
that. Oh, is it that high? Anyway, neither here nor there, but
that.
that would be like, and mustard. That's and hopefully most of the time I was eating peanut butter day before payday. I had a great time.
Okay, I know we got to cut because you got to get on the air shortly. One quick question would be, if you could go back to maybe any moment that you got to experience throughout your career so far, what would you love to maybe revisit? That was like, this is the one that stood out. I wish I could go back to that.
To do it differently?
Not necessarily differently, but just maybe you're standing in, what was it, in 2012 during the national championship game? When
it'd be something totally different.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had a shot at doing Pirate baseball play-by-play on radio for 3 innings while I was picked, the only non-former Major League player to do color on a TV network, and I didn't say the right things, and I didn't get that. If I had to do everything all over again in that office with the general manager, I would have said something differently.
Yeah.
That's it. Because that's all.
So you might still be in Pittsburgh then.
Who knows?
Who knows?
They ended up hiring a guy who kissed a lot of butt, which I didn't do, which is why I didn't get the job. And he had no experience doing it. He's been there for over 30 years. Yeah. And he wasn't very good when he started. He's been very good now for a long time.
But because
he was because he was a butt kisser and was in PR, he got a job he didn't deserve. And now, to his credit, he's had a great career.
Seems like
that would be the one thing. I haven't thought about it in years either. That'd be the one. I can now picture the person I was talking to.
Yeah,
I was dying. They called me. Hey, would you like to do 3 innings as well as doing the? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my whole dream when I was 5 years old, to do.
Sitting in 3 Rivers in the booth.
I wanted to do radio baseball play-by-play when I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
Don't explain to me how I knew that. We're out of time. It's a story for another day.
Tell us, where can we find you? Where can we listen every day?
1300 AM, 92.5 FM, Monday through Friday from 12 to 2. And more are doing podcasts, which I appreciate. So you can get the podcast and also live. We have some people listening in Cuba, by the way. Can you explain that? I don't mean Cuba, Kentucky.
Baseball, Cuba. I
don't know. Anyway,
stretch.
WLXG.com has the podcast, and you can listen live anywhere in the country.
Cool. Thanks so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
I hope it wasn't boring.
No, it was great.
Thanks, dude.
All right. Hey, thanks so much for listening to the Lexington Business Show. Go right now, rate and review the podcast. It's how we grow and thrive and how we get more listeners and get to do a lot more cool stuff here on the show. Thank you.